Training zones set the framework of intensity that guide you to achieving performance adaptation. Measured in watts power, heart rate, pace, and rate of perceived effort, the idea behind following training zones in your training plan is to give you an idea of aligning the objective data with subjective feedback. Today I want to talk about how I like to use pace for myself in an athlete's training plan. Now, one reason I don't like to use pace is because pace, especially on the bike or the run, if you're going uphill, downhill, or flat, if you have undulating terrain, that's going to really severely affect your pace, slow, fast, normal, generally. And if you're new and you're not quite sure what all this stuff means, you may get a little bit discouraged that you had a very low average pace on a training run or ride, not realizing that you just happened to do like 1,000 feet of elevation gain in a 5-mile distance. So pace is really good to use in your training plan, but as the best measure of intensity, not on hilly terrain. I like to use pace if I'm running at the track. The track is a nice, even, flat surface. It's pretty consistent. The only thing that may limit or change or impact the pace, not limit, but impact your pace, is if you're running with a headwind. But then for every headwind, you're going to have a tailwind. So in the end, it evens itself out. I also have a 5-mile loop that I like to ride around. It's pretty flat. I just did a 50-mile ride and I only had 400 feet of elevation gain in 50 miles. So I like to use pace for that as well. So when I'm doing intensity, I like to be on a flatter surface so it's a little bit more even and consistent. I also like to use pace in the pool. I'm a swimmer, so I know my paces. I can vary my pace very easily when I swim. But a lot of new adult onset swimmers tell me all the time they just have one pace. So then I help them use rate of perceived effort to help dial in varying paces while they're in the pool. If I'm in open water, I don't use pace. I just strictly go by rate of perceived effort because usually any current upstream or downstream is going to impact pace. So if you are going to use pace in open water, it's just good to be mindful that there is going to be an impact of current. And then going back to the pool, I know how to read a pace clock. That was kind of what I was brought up in, reading pace clock, and I'm very old school. So I didn't have a lot of data or GPS technology when I started the sport of triathlon. So I'm very old school, and I still really heavily rely on that rate of perceived effort to gauge my intensity. And if you haven't already done so, you should check out the video that I did on rate of perceived effort. So, like I said, when it comes to pace, just be aware of the major things that impact pace are current in the water, hills, weather, wind, tailwind on the bike. And it's definitely a good measure to use, but you want to be aware of the big picture of how you're using it.